Welcome.
There's more chairs here.
Hey.
Oh, you got one there.
Cool. Yep. But it's also fun because I get to ask whoever I want to be on it. I get pitched a lot, but if there's somebody that I'm really interested in, then I've never had anyone say no. Never. Yeah. And that is really awesome. It's like you realize that my following is nowhere near as big as you probably hope it is, right? And they always still say yes. It's always easy, yeah. It's, we finish the show and they're like, "You made that easy. I was really terrified." Because that live video element to a lot of people is terrifying. So, hello.
Hi.
We're seatmates.
I told you.
You must have been talking it up. Yeah. Well.
You know, that angle's so sharp, I can't even take and read the screen from here.
There you go.
You mean I've got to turn around?
You got to turn around.
Oh, wow.
It's backwards on Andrew's screen, too.
Oh.
So, but we're given the slides, so the people that do this via Zoom.
Okay,
later
well,
will
I
have
can
that.
see that one
Tell you
there.
what, I can turn this a little bit your way.
Oh, thank you.
How's that? Now you see exactly what I see.
You're kind.
I think we're good.
We're good? Well, okay, so this is your last chance to escape if you do not intend to be with Pamela Fagan Hutchins talking about 5 simple ways to sell a ton of books. So anyone that wants to leave will not hurt my feelings, but that's where you are and what you're doing. I'm Pamela. Some of you have already discovered that I wrote a book called What Kind of Loser Indie Publishes and How Can I Be One Too, which is it's a how-to guide on how to get it out there, your book, and then the beginnings of how to market it. This encapsulates a lot of those theories. This will be the boiled down version, but a little bit more advanced than some of what's in the book. And I also teach writers workshops and retreats for the last year. That's been virtual, a lot of Zoom, but also sometimes at our lodge up in Bighorn, so in Sheridan County, up on the eastern face of the Bighorns. And we do classes that are more expanded versions of what we're going to talk about today, but we also do, what's really been popular lately, is advanced promotion and advertising. So I teach Facebook ads and BookBub ads and Amazon ads and how to run your subscriber list to dovetail into all of that. So we aren't going to do that today, don't worry. That's the hard stuff. And this is my husband, Eric. Eric is holding a purple book, which he's going to start passing around, and it will dovetail into something that I'm going to mention here shortly about your subscriber list, because those of you that sign up are give me your email address, are agreeing that you want to, for at least one issue, receive a newsletter from me and you'll also get a free book with it, okay? You can unsubscribe immediately, I don't care. But if you give me your email address, you are going to hear from me at least once or until you unsubscribe. But what you're looking for, as we'll talk about later, is you're looking for people that are interested in what you write and what you do and a way to stay in contact with them. So I do this at every single event. And I don't know which ones of you sign up and which ones don't, so don't feel obligated. Just scratch your email address down if you want to. So I write, as I said, I wrote this one, but that's not really what I write. I wrote this one because for some reason, working together, Eric and I seem to have some modicum of success in selling a lot of books. At this point in time, that is about over 3 million. And that's all as an indie author.
How many did you say?
3 million.
I thought that's what you said.
That's right. And I mean, every day when you look in the mirror and maybe you're having a bad day, you go, "You've sold 3 million books. You can do this, girl." It's a very nice number. Does it mean I got rich? No, it costs money to sell books, right? You have to invest in somebody has to, whether it's you as an indie or whether it's a publisher, has to invest in making them visible and people knowing about them. But we'll hint at some of that as we talk about the things you can do to get that ready. USA Today bestseller status, Silver Falchion Best Mystery winner. Both of those things have happened since last time I was at Wyoming Writers, so I had a good 5 years. And at the same time, during that 5-year period, my income went vroom, down, hit rock bottom, and then it's come back up again. And so I can tell you not only what works, but what hasn't worked. I have invested in the mistakes you might make with time and money before, or so you don't have to, I guess, because I've tried everything. And I'm actually, because I do a lot of these talks, either virtually or live, about how to sell books, how to make money at selling books. I actually publicly disclose all of my numbers at the link here that is case sensitive, but it actually shows you where's Pamela today, how's she doing on that 6-figure income. Looks like she's a hair over, looks like she's a hair under. You'd be all in the know. All right, so we're going to go over my 5, I'm going to use quotes now, simple steps, because you didn't really expect them to be simple, right? You just, you hoped, oh my goodness, we're going to burst at the seams. Andrew, you overdid it. Yeah. We'll find,
I'll get some more.
and I can stand up. I prefer it. So we're good with these two. You can put one. Just don't lean in front of that screen. We're recording for the Zoomers that will be watching it later. Yeah, but you know, if we're going to do that, what I'm going to do is pull this forward.
Am I in the way here?
Nope, you're still good. Maurice. Is that how you say it? Maurice? There we go. Okay, so we're going to go over these steps, which are simple in concept, but in execution, we all know that this isn't the easiest of stuff, or we wouldn't be in here. If we figured it out when we hit publish on that first book, we might already, we've met before. Hi. I also want to encourage you that this is not just for indie authors. I have traditional authors, traditionally published authors that take my classes that pay for a big share of their own marketing and advertising too. So this applies no matter how you're published. But indies have to do this stuff if they want to move a lot of books. If you don't care, let me preface this by saying if your goal was to write a book, to have it in your hands, to give it to your grandmother or whatever, that is 101% valid approach to being an author. You don't have to want to sell a lot of books, but I'm assuming because you're here that you kind of have a slight interest in that. So we're going to move forward under that premise. And step 1 probably makes total sense to you guys. No runny, buggy ketchup. Okay, so what the heck does this woman mean? Ketchup. Let's think about ketchup for a second. I promise this will relate back to books. When you go to the grocery store and you buy a jar of ketchup, you have certain standards in mind for what you think is ketchup worth your money. It's got to be the right color and the right consistency, not all runny or lumpy. It's got to be something that smells good and tastes good. It has to have an acceptable bug parts per million. That is a thing, by the way. I had a cousin that worked for Kraft. You have to be able to find it where you want to buy it. You're the buyer. You want it to be at your place. You need it to be packaged the way you want. You want the kind that sits on its lid so that it's always there ready to be squeezed out, or do you prefer the bottle with the twist off top? All of these things matter to you. And who sets the standard that then becomes part of our psyche? The name brands, right? The Heinz, who makes ketchup? Hunt. I always turn to him when I need him to have anything that's not on the screen, I can't do. What is it? So the name brands do. And if you're going to go and you're going to buy a ketchup that's not Hunt or Heinz or those other famous brands, there has to be something about that other brand that's either better or cheaper. Or if it's cheaper, it's got to be at least close to as good, right? You're not going to take runny, buggy ketchup, even if it's a generic brand. You are going to want that ketchup to be still good enough, even if it's not quite as good, right? So there's a trade-off. I'll spend less money for non-name brand as long as it meets a minimum standard. You're probably starting to see where I'm going here. So when you're in indie publishing, or you're not J.K. Rowling or one of the other authors right there at the top who people buy automatically because of their name or because of their publisher's name, then you are that non-Heinz, you are that non-Hunt ketchup. And you can't be runny or buggy, or none of what I'm going to talk about today will work, right? Someone's going to try your ketchup and go, not for me. wrong color, wrong, ketchup's not supposed to be that color. That's the response we're not looking for with a book. So what does that mean in terms of a book? So the standard is set by those traditional publishers that have been here at, years and years and years and millennia, and that's the American Association of Publishers, especially New York, especially the Big Five. And the standard that they set has to do with what your cover's going to look like. Unless, of course, you've decided my cover's going to look like exactly what I want it to look like. We're going to have to think about that, though, for a second. If the standard is that a thriller cover looks like, Lee Child's covers, and you have one with bunnies and daisies on it because that's what you like, is anyone going to buy your thriller? No. So one of the reasons that people get into indie publishing is for control. Control freak, right here. 100% why I decided to go into indie publishing. At the time that I made that decision, I had 3 manuscripts out on full, and my husband said, "You're going to be miserable. Look at your friends that have said yes to this deal. They are not getting to make any choices, and that's not you." So I said, okay, let's give it a shot. And I've loved making my own choices, but that has sometimes meant that my choices were really, really bad ones. So I'm going to give you some examples of cover choices that we made that didn't fit what we were looking to do in a minute, so you can see what I'm saying. So even though you've got that control, you have to exercise it like a business person and put your emotions aside and say, I know that I'm really in love with this cover concept, but it looks nothing like the best sellers in this category, and therefore, nobody is going to take a chance on me that has not heard of me before, because I'm not Hines, I'm not Hunt. I'm not Hines and I'm not Hunt. I mean, be clear, I've sold 3 million books and I'm not a name brand. And if I'm not and you have sold 50 books, I can promise you we're in the same boat. So trust me on this. The cover that you're in love with, you need to compare it to what's out there. Your content needs to be rock solid, whether you write fiction or whether you write nonfiction or whether you write poetry. You need to have content that fits what it is, where it is you're trying to sell it. So let's say that what you write is, Larry and I were talking earlier, murder mysteries. You have to have a book that is a good murder mystery, that is a quality murder mystery. Does it have to be as good as, who's your favorite mystery author in here? Someone yell out a name. Grisham. Does it have to be as good as John Grisham? No, but it has to be good enough, right? So it has to satisfy what people are looking for in that genre, and it has to have believable, authentic characters and a good story arc that leads to the type of conclusion that they're expecting. Otherwise, I'm going to shut it and say, that's runny buggy ketchup. That's not a mystery. And am I going to come back to Eric Hutchins' book or Pamela Fagan Hutchins' book once I've had that experience? I'm not. Another of the things that very much you have to have is near error-free editing. And this is a tough one because even the traditionally published books that I read all have errors in them. It's a joy of mine is to get a red pen out and circle them and go, I have less than you, I have less than you. But it needs to be near error-free. Think of that as your bug parts per million, right? It's how many distracting errors does this book have. You are not the person to edit your book. Probably neither is your friend who's an English teacher. It's somebody that knows how to copy edit, that has a process and really knows how to get the errors out of a book. Obviously, the things we're talking about don't come free. We'll talk about that in a second as well. You need copy, like back of book copy, sales page copy. It's your description that is voicey, in the same voice as what you've written, and that is preferably professionally edited by the same person that edited your book, so it's going to come out the same. And you need it to be emotionally compelling, even if you write nonfiction. Because unless you're selling a how-to book, and even if you are, you're not selling the how-to, you're selling the satisfying feeling of having your problem solved, right? And so you have to find a way in your description to satisfy the emotional need that drove someone to search on Amazon or on Barnes & Noble or wherever for whatever type of book you're writing. So you're not being too cut and dry. You're being more of a, I hate to say it, a person that understands at the end of the day you're wanting to sell that book by giving a person a solution to their emotional issue. you're selling it where they want to find it. So that's the major retailers. I know that you get a better margin if you sell it directly from yourself, but where's your big audience of buyers like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Google and et cetera have? You don't have it. You know, you're not going to develop it. You need to be where the buyers go, even if you hate that retailer / Amazon. You know, I've had a love-hate relationship with them forever. So you have to be where they want, and you have to have it available in the format they're looking for. So for many of us, this is overcoming an aversion to digital books and accepting that readers of all ages now love that they can get books cheaper and in a digital format. I would say, for me, format-wise, right now my audiobook is running, I looked at it today, my audiobook is running at about nearly 7% of my income, which is up 350% since last time I spoke at Wyoming Writers. Fastest growing format. So if you can at all do an audiobook, do, because it's such a growing market. The second fastest growing for me had to do with what I write. Print used to be about 2% of what I did, because I skewed to a younger audience. I wrote a book for my dad. My dad had cancer and was given 3 months to live, and I decided to write a book with him as protagonist. But I also gave him the option to tell me exactly how to write it. No bad language, no sex, you know, this family-oriented, etc. And I'm going, okay, no one that I write for will read this, Dad, come on. It's my best-selling series to date. I'm selling a lot of, not just paperbacks, large print. And so having the right format made me able to capitalize on the sales because I started to understand who my readers were, right? And you can do large print through Amazon or through Ingram. You can do hardcover even now through Amazon and, you know, and simplify your life. But making sure that you've got all the formats that your readers are looking for and offering them up. So let's look at an example of a really bad cover choice I made. So back before I published novels, I had a bunch of creative nonfiction that I'd written. I wanted to publish those books because they existed. They were practice. And we came up with this cover, which was what we thought was the right cover to do, but it was way too busy. You can probably see over there, right? Okay, cool. It was way too busy. You couldn't really get the title or the name out of it, and it looked like a kid's book. So we redid it, and the sales just shot a lot higher. I wouldn't say through the roof, because I got my money back on these books. They were worth it, but they don't pay the bills, let's put it that way. In fact, I took them off the market because they were confusing the way that Amazon analyzed my books and placed me. So I had to take them down, not because they weren't selling, but because they were. It's a very confusing story. But anyway, this became the cover, and that sold. Now, I got smarter. Said I don't like redoing covers over and over. I have one cover I've redone like 4 times. I say that. 4 times in 12 years. But that's a good way, by the way, to reposition a book, because styles change, tastes change. So if your sales drop off, you can always change the cover and appeal to somebody who wants a different look. But when I came to the series my dad wanted, I knew what he was really talking about was the C.J. Box Joe Pickett book, right? You know, as I'm describing this. And so I went and looked at the books that were CJ's, as well as other people that read C.J. Box, what else they read, other authors, and I really studied those, and then I worked with a cover artist and said, here's the universe of what's possible, now make it me. And she came up with books that have been with these. They say action, adventure, mystery, thriller, suspense, set in mountains, right? And it's worked. Were they the cover I dreamed of? Well, I'd gotten smart enough by then not to get my heart broke, and I never even considered what I might dream of. I immediately went to, what do the readers of books like this expect? What will make them feel safe taking a chance on an author in this genre when they like to read fill in the blank with that author's name, and it worked. How do you do that? Well, you can go look up particular authors. You can also go into Amazon and look in the bestseller categories. This happens to be a short story and anthology bestseller list here. And you can see, you know, the commonalities here to me are less emphasis on image and more emphasis on title, mood or feel, and author name, okay? So that you can clearly read in a thumbnail size what it is that this book's called and who wrote it, and that you're not so distracted by the image that you can't even get to the words, okay? The image is important, it's a mood setter, but I've seen great covers that are little more than color and font, right? It's not about the image can kill you. It's about mood, title, and author name. And the bigger the author, the bigger the name, right? At some point you're selling the title, at some point you switch and you're selling the author. A word about the thumbnail issue. I have a wonderful cover artist that I've worked with for like 15 books now, and she knows me, and she knows the first thing I'm going to say is, show it to me in thumbnails side by side with every book in that series. I don't ever want to just say, here's a cover for you. I want to see it this big, 200 by 300 pixels, lined out with everything else so that I can see that it sells the series with continuity. So if you have a series, you want your fonts to always be the same for your titles. You want the fonts and the placement to always be the same for your name. Let's do this again, because I think this actually, and you feel free if you're behind us to see what I mean by stepping around here. You see how all of these, the title is in the same place, the same font, the author name is in the same place with the same font. It's branding, right? I'm branding that book to make it easier for people next time to know this is what they want to buy. And so that if they see it in thumbnail, they get an unconscious association with, that's what I'm looking for. Because I'm competing with a lot of people that advertise to my name, to my book titles on Amazon. Like they'll literally have their target as, if someone types in Pamela Fagan Hutchins, I want to come first, which really makes me angry, but I do it too. And so you need to be sure that you stand out for yourself. You protect your identity. So you can look in these bestseller categories, you can get a feel, see if you're matching in, and then reduce it down to thumbnail, 200 by 300 pixels. The next thing to consider, as I mentioned, is near error-free editing. And my favorite story on this is, once upon a time, long ago, when Eric's in the energy industry, or just retired last week, so yay! And so he was a refining guy, and we lived in Houston as a result, and I was president of the Houston Writers Guild, and we ran all of these critique circles, and sometimes people listen to your feedback and sometimes they don't, right? And so I had this guy that went ahead and self-published a nonfiction book that all of us were going, dude, it is so not ready. He didn't get a professional editor, and he got this 1-star review, and he called me on the phone and said, don't they know how hard I've worked? Don't they? And I said, no. Does someone on Amazon know how hard you've worked on this book, how you've sweated over it, how much you love it, how it's like your baby? No, and what's more, they don't care. They're being asked to invest their time reading your book. A little bit of their money, but their time is the big thing. And they feel insulted if you're runny buggy ketchup, right? I just forked out money and I got, 999,000 bug parts per million. So no, they don't know. The runny buggy catch-up then ultimately leads to bad sales. Even if you, let's say you had a really great mailing list or something and you got, boom, release day, 100 books sold, and a follow-up of great sales for a few more weeks. And then the reviews start coming in and they're all 1s and they're 2s maybe, or maybe your mom leaves a 5, but everybody knows it's your mom because it's the only 5 in the group, right? Then that will ultimately tank your sales. And not only that, it's going to tank you forever. It's going to, that's your record in the Amazon or the Barnes & Noble system associated with those reviews. You won't get past it. So that leads us to one of my favorite expressions, go slow to go fast, okay? You want to knock the ball out of the park, sell a lot of books, do it in a big splashy hurry. Well, that means you need to really take your time getting there, right? You need to say, hey, that editor is going to cost me X. Maybe it's $1,500, maybe it's $500. I don't know. Whatever it is you're thinking, I don't have that. Well, you've got the rest of your life to never sell books because you didn't use that, and you have a bad slate of reviews associated with your name on Amazon. So what do you do about that? You can barter, you can save your money, you can quit drinking lattes, you can do something, but you cannot skip this step and get past this point in this presentation and sell books. I promise. I've worked with a lot of authors, and I've never seen, other than 50 Shades of Grey, anyone go past this point and sell a lot of books, okay? Has anybody read the early, it was in an indie published book. I'm gonna have to stop. So also you could think of this as measure twice, cut once, right? You're gonna take all your time beforehand. You're gonna make sure you invest in the cover and in the editing and do all the things right that you need to do. Okay, so step 2 is to focus on the 5 R's, and they are not reading, writing, arithmetic, and all of those. These are the 5 R's according to me. But first, the opposite of the 5 R's is to get on social media and say, why hasn't anybody bought my book? My book's been on sale. I really need people to buy my book. Does this ever work? No. Have you ever been in a bookstore and somebody's having an event and they're saying to people, you really should buy my book? And what do people do? They make a little beeline around that person as far as they can, sneaking away. They do not stop and buy that book unless they're my mother who feels really sorry for them, and then they will. But that's the only one that does. So we know that this doesn't work. So what can you focus on that does work? Because as an indie, you are doing your own marketing and your own promotion and your own advertising, or hiring someone that does, or whatever. You can do what I call the 5 R's. Hey, welcome. And what are those? So the first R is for readers. Readers, either few or numerous, and hopefully to include women 40 and older, because guess who buys 75% of the books in all format, in any venue, in the book market? That'd be women over 40. Not always for themselves, right? They're gifts, or maybe it's like in our house where Eric says, can you get on Amazon and get this for me? Are your fingers broken? You know, that conversation, and you do it for them anyway. So women make that buy, purchase decision. And so you may be thinking, this is my reader, but you're also thinking, that's my buyer. So I've got to appeal to both of them. How do I get there? And they are people that aren't necessarily who you thought they were going to be. They're very specific individuals that enjoy whatever it is that you write, and it behooves you to spend a lot of time thinking about who that might be, because any one of you who says, I think my book would appeal to anybody, is just flat wrong, okay? You just are. Spent a lot of money proving that point over the years, thinking, there's a broader appeal to this book. We even changed covers once to do broader appeal, try to, let's de-emphasize the female protagonist, because I have a lot of male readers. Nope, that didn't work. Sales went down. So you're looking for that special reader. And once you think of who they are, you hold on to them with both hands. So for me, traditionally, I thought of my readers as cat ladies. My readers were women that were single, that had cats, and that on Sunday nights stocked up on their books for the week, and they may read one a day. They read voraciously, and they're looking for a mystery without a lot of offensive content, etc. So in my mind, I had this picture of this woman with fuzzy socks on and a cup of tea curled up in bed, and that really helped me. So you need to think about who buys my books. That does not work for me anymore, but I have figured these readers out as well. They're just all about 15 years older than that person, and they have horses and cows instead of cats. So anyway, these readers will, for you, leave, hopefully, reviews, good or bad, few or numerous, and also associated with those reviews, they will result in a rating, because those reviews have a star rating associated with them, and that rating will be good or bad. That results in a ranking for either a paid or a free book. Just switched up there by parenthetical. So there's rankings for paid books and free books, because there's a big market for books that are given away. We'll talk about that in a minute. And that ranking can be good or bad and may also yield recommendations. Here's my 5th R. And those recommendations can be person to person. They can be because somebody leaves a Facebook post or comment. They can be because someone tells their book club about it. They could be because the Amazon machine recommends your book and sends emails out to people saying, you read C.J. Box, you might also like this book by Pamela Fagan Hutchins. And when that happens, you buy a bottle of champagne and you dance because you've done something right on the first 4 R's to get there, right? Now, obviously, good reviews, numerous readers, numerous reviews, good ratings, those all lead, hopefully, to paid sales. Paid sales are awesome. And so are giveaways. Have you ever been asked to read a free book and just didn't do it?
Yeah.
It's hard to get people to read books even for free. Try me on this. Try to give your book away. Just try. And people don't want to read it. So even readers who read free are readers, and we do not want to take them for granted because they can leave reviews that lead to ratings and rankings and recommendations, right? And so we want to get to paid sales. 5 simple ways to sell a ton of books. But we may need to get comfortable with the idea of, I've got to build those 5 R's somehow to get there, right? And until I am, a little bit stacked with good stuff here, people may not be taking a chance on non-Heinz ketchup. And that's a challenge a lot of times for us to get through. So let's stop and think for a second. If you felt a feeling of resistance when I told you you needed to be sure to provide your book in digital format, or if you feel a sense of resistance when I'm telling you that you may need to give some books away in order to get to paid sales, and it's kind of hitting you right here, that's exactly what you came to this class to learn. That's that moment when you hit the thing that could be the game changer for you. So where you feel the resistance, push through that. That's probably right now your Achilles heel. Yes, ma'am.
I'm confused. You said that giving away books is not good because people don't read them.
I said, have you ever tried to give away a book? Sometimes people won't read them. In other words, that it can be hard to get people to read your books, period, much less to pay for them. But it is fantastic, especially with the first book, to give them away. Okay. And thank you for asking me to clarify that. If anybody gets lost, just ask me to slow down and repeat, okay? All right, so it all starts with readers, not necessarily buyers, but people that will start at page 1 of your book and go through, hopefully, to the end. These are what we're looking for, especially in the beginning. And it starts with how you can get it to them anywhere, not necessarily live bookstores. Only 1% of the authors that publish each year are stocked around the country in bookstores. Why would the other 99% of us kill ourselves to get into that if we have this big, fat, everybody can be there, free to us bookstore like the internet, right? Does that mean don't put your books in consignment in your local stores? No, it doesn't mean that. You absolutely should. If you can, get your books on consignment with somewhere that you can develop a relationship with. But don't beat yourself up if you're not part of the 99%. We spent a lot of time and effort in the first few years. I got lucky on my first book, and it sold like mad. It was a good time to get on Amazon. It sold like mad from the very beginning, made back everything I spent on it in a week, and I'm thinking, this is easy. Hey, woo, we licked this thing. It was not that easy. It immediately did something wrong, and it all fell apart. And we spent a lot of time and money trying to figure out how to be nationally distributed with bookstores. And it turned out that what it took is a lot of money. It took a lot of money. And that money didn't necessarily guarantee a return. That money actually meant the books had to be returnable. The bookstores could return them. It would cost us more than it would cost to place them there for them to be returned. And we realized, let's do something with a little better margin. Let's see if we can't sell our books where we're wanted, right? So I encourage you to be where you want to be and meet your own goals, but to remember that it is no big thing to be in those bookstores. Those are all paid placements anyway, and who wants to be only there because someone paid the bookstore, right? To find your readers, you have to figure out what you write. You have to figure out what they enjoy and why, so that you can envision them. That's how I figured out they're cat ladies, they drink tea, they wear fuzzy socks, and I would totally love them. And that's how I knew who my readers were after a while. But work with people that read your early drafts to try to get that picture in your mind so that your advertising works or your social media posts work, etc. Now we'll talk about giving books away. So if you focus on making money, first of all, off your inner circle, that 50, 25, 100, whatever people that you know best, you are going to burn through them fast and you're going to never get past it, right? Because people that have known you forever, the closest in my experience with our authors, we have a small publishing company, and with my authors and our readers' authors are the closest in, they're the slowest to adopt. Meaning, they still think of you as whatever you are in your day job, or as a little girl in pigtails, or anything but a writer, because writers are special creatures that that are like Stephen King, and you're not Stephen King to them, right? You're just Sheila or Pamela or Larry. So don't focus in on that group for your paid sales. You're thinking about who are my readers, right? Who really would choose this book, not just because they're married to me or gave birth to me, but who would choose this book as what they read. And strangers are going to need a reason to take a chance. So we'll be talking about ways to price differentiate and stuff like that in a second, but they need a reason to take a chance. And reviewers, if you're looking for people to review your book, expect your book to be free. Sandra Brown just gave me her book free, so I'll write a review. Sandra Brown, she can sell a lot of books, but she gave it to me. If Sandra Brown can give away her books, we can give away our books, right? This tells us something about how the industry works. And you work your way up the book influencers. Sandra way undershot by giving it to me, but she has worked her way up except for that. A good way to give away books with minimal effort on your part is a service called bookfunnel.com. And it's a subscription-based service, really nominal fee, but you put your book in digital format up there and then can generate download links. And it's a really gold way to do this. I use this every single day in some form or the other. So you give away books to help you generate the 5 R's and to get you past this inner circle that's slowest to adopt, with the hope that by doing all of this, it leads to paid sales. So I can't remember which slide this is on because we haven't done this live in a year and a half. It's so exciting to see faces. But I will talk about it more in a second. That's just an example of a slide from screen from BookFunnel. I've loaded books up there. I can click to generate my links. It's pretty slick. I used to really jump through hoops to give books away digitally because I'm not going to mail a paperback to people unless there's a gun to my head. That costs me money, right? It's like handing them a $5 bill, and I'm not just handing people $5 bills. I'm trying to make money, not give it away. So I would attach PDFs or all these different ways that ultimately were a lot of legwork and didn't always work. So this works great. All right, step 3 to selling a lot of books is write more. Why do you write more? You're sitting there thinking, it took me 8 years to write the first draft of my first novel. I'm only going to live 15 more. How many more of these do I have in me? You're going to get faster each time. Terrell and I talked about this earlier. So if you're going to sell a lot of books, you've got to play the odds, and the odds are against anybody selling a ton of one book. Most of the time with an indie author, that's what it takes to get the 5 R's that'll lead to the sales of your later books. And so what can you do about this? And by the way, if you felt resistance there, remember that's why you're here. That's why you're in this class. And you did come because you want to sell books. So you've got to reconcile those things. You're not a brand name. You need book 1 to be, in some ways, a sacrificial lamb. I'm going to give you a great example of this in just a second. Monetization starts around 4 to 6 complementary books. Complementary could mean a series. It could mean that you write poetry and they're all, books of poetry that are of a similar tone or vein. It could be that you write nonfiction books and they're about related topics. If you don't have enough to say, let's say you wrote a really long fantasy book, break that sucker into a trilogy. Nobody says your book has to be long. You need more than one. So if I write 100,000 words and I think that's all I've got in me, I'm sitting here thinking, could I do 35,000 a piece? What could I do to make this into 3 books? Or I get real serious about writing the next one, okay? Short fiction generates less money, and that's just a fact. So if you're a short story writer or poetry writer, you know going in, you're following a passion. These aren't the people that get rich, right? You know, how many rich poets do you know? Not many. So you do it because you love it. And I'll tell you something cool you can do with short fiction and poetry is you can use it to generate newsletter sign-ups. The concept is called lead magnet. So a lead magnet is where I say, and you're Cassandra, I say, Cassandra, how about I give you a short story and you sign up for my newsletter? And Cassandra says, that'd be super awesome. I would love a short story. Thank you. And she gives me her email address. Now, if Cassandra reads, let's just go with my books like this, okay? If she's my ideal reader, this was a super trade-off, because now I can continue to correspond with her until she gets sick of me, and that means I'm going to keep it to a dull roar, because we all get a lot of email, and you're going to email her, only when you have something really important to say, like once every quarter or month at the most, But let's say she's not. Let's say what she really likes to read is Regency romances. You do not like a Regency romance writer, so I had to say that. Regency romances. Is she the right person to be on my list? No. Why? Because she's never going to read my books. She's sure not going to buy them, but she's never going to read them. She's a waste of my time and money. She hurts my stats for my newsletters, which counts. Different class, we talk about that more. And I cannot monetize my investment in her. Okay, I've just given her a short story. I just invested. No monetization there whatsoever. But let's say I go to Larry, and he does read these kind of books. He lives in Jackson, Wyoming, and he likes the outdoors, and he wants to read a murder mystery. He's a super investment for me. That's a person I want on my list. Okay? But that short fiction or even poetry that's from the same time, time period or geographic location or something really makes good lead magnets if what you're wanting to do is help them make you monetize other assets. And by assets, I mean things you wrote. Because writing is a business. As soon as you try to sell a book, you go from artist to artist/business person. Whether you are a traditionally published author or an indie author, it's just, for an indie author, no one gives you an advance, so it's all your skin in the game, right? And that can sometimes really hurt. How am I doing on time, hon?
Andrew, I don't
We
believe
got about 20 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you. I get so excited that I don't know if I'm already over or if I've covered it all in 3.5 minutes at the speed I talk. Okay, so when we think about writing complementary books and think about how we sell, we have to keep in mind that the people that read the most books read a lot of books. I mean, I literally am in groups, reader groups, where they read at least 1 book a day. It's crazy. And they want more of what they like. If they find an author they like or a character they like, they want more of that. Okay? Maybe it's a spin-off book if you don't like series, or maybe it's just that you write something in the same vein so that they can continue in the type of experience you provided, even if it isn't with the same characters. But genre readers tend to really want the next one. So if you're a genre writer, meaning not literary fiction, not nonfiction, not poetry, but you write fantasy, sci-fi, horror, mystery, thriller, suspense, some kind of romantic book, whether the adult or the YA version, then you tend to find that people will follow characters, okay? And that's good for you as an indie author, because if you've invested really hard in the 5 R's on a first book, and you've invested in giving it away to generate them, then it becomes a loss leader. there's some business speak for you. It becomes a loss leader, meaning I didn't make a ton of money on that first book, but I established my credibility. I built some readership. Maybe I gained subscribers for my newsletter, and now they're ready for book 2. And maybe by book 2, I make it a little bit more. And by book 3, I make it a little bit more. Book 4, a little bit more. Don't believe me, and I think you probably do, but this is Amazon author rank. This was probably, I don't know when I first did this presentation. It's an old slide. They don't do author rank anymore. The reason they don't is because they stack the system, and everyone in the top of the author rank is Amazon published authors. And they don't really want to admit anymore to everybody else that you have to be published directly by one of their imprints to break in the top 100. Very few sour grapes here, very few. Anyway, do any of these authors have just one book? No. You want to make money, you've got to write more than one book. You want to sell a lot of books, you use your first book to help sell later. In fact, most publishing contracts for authors are not for one book. Very rarely do you see we're just buying this book. We say they've got you for 2 or maybe 4, because they're looking for the point of monetization as well. Now they can back out at their discretion before then, but they want to make money on you and know that up front somebody's investing this money to create this. Is the word inertia? Okay, inertia. Whether it's an indie author, it's you, it's a publisher. It's not happening free and it's not happening by accident. They want to get to monetization as well, and that's why my friends that have been dumped by publishers get dumped after their 3rd or 4th book. And when the publisher sees, are we going to make it or not? See ya. But then you have assets you can go sell on your own, so that's okay too. All right, so step 4 is price it in. So if we aren't selling Hunt or Heinz ketchup, then we probably aren't charging Hunt or Heinz prices, right? Go to the grocery store, and it's the Albertsons or the Safeway brand, and you expect it to cost a little less because it doesn't have the fancy logo on it. And there are a few. There are craft ketchups, I guess you'd call them, that may be a little bit more. They're specialty ketchups. You're not selling those either. You're selling one that people expect that if I'm going to take a chance on someone I've never heard of, that I don't necessarily pay what everybody else is paying to get Heinz or Hunt. So let's talk about how to get the price right. So you are not a brand name. That should sound like an echo by now, an echo chamber. And we don't even have an echo in here. You are not a brand name, and because of that, you have to price it in. What does that mean with print? Not much, because with print, you're killing trees. There's just so low you can go, and so it's not much sensitivity there. In fact, what I have found as my print sales have gone from 2 to 20% of my income, in the last 2 years they've gone up to 20%. Traditionalists, older readers, et cetera, is that the higher I price my books, the print versions, nobody seems to care. All they want, they know they want that book and it's print. So as far as an indie goes, you can price at what a traditional publisher prices, or just barely less, and still get the readers that are looking for a print asset. Now, if we had the ability to drop the price to nothing, would that give us a competitive advantage? Well, sure it would, but we can't because we're killing trees, okay? But I've literally jacked my price up over and over and over just in the last year as an experiment. Well, they'll pay $17.99. Will they pay $18.99? Will they pay $19.99? Until you kind of feel guilty. But it hasn't seemed to have made a difference, and in some cases it's helped. But that also has to do with maybe me taking a step up the rungs. So, audio. There are 2 great ways, others not quite as good, to publish audio as an indie author. And one of them is through Audio Creation Exchange, which is basically Amazon and Audible. And they are all the same thing. It's just different names. Amazon owns everything is what it comes down to. They own this building. No, I'm just kidding. But they might, who knows. But anyway, with ACX, you can do royalty split agreements with a narrator where you're not out a cent. That's very attractive. But you have to give Amazon a 7-year exclusive, and you can't take the book down, you can't do anything with it because They're given a chance for it to pay out to the narrator too. So it's 7 years. And you don't set the price, and you cannot price promote. There's a new kid in town the last few years called Find Away Voices. There is no royalty share agreements. You have to be able to afford to have someone do your audiobook or do it yourself. But you upload your audiobook, and then you set the price and you set the discounts. So you can literally do limited time discounts to specific retailers. And there are then ways that you can price promote through some different services that you pay if you do a discount. And that's pretty cool. That's very new in audio, and it's been the reason I think I've gone from, part of the reason is it's the fastest growing part of the format, a book, but part of why I've had 350% growth is that I've been able now to switch to a different vendor who allows price promotion. But that price promotion has resulted in a lot more income as I've dropped the prices. So, wow, that's a concept, right? I think my book is worth my ebook. Let's just think about ebooks for a second. We have the most control over ebook pricing. And you can discount ebooks, and there are all these services that will promote your discount ebooks, any type, any genre. I mean, here's where poetry and nonfiction can really participate, because there are services that will promote those as well, but you have to drop the price to 99 cents or free, which sounds horrible, except for the fact that if I promote my book for free, and those of you that come tomorrow to my reviews class, you'll learn that about 1% of the strangers that get a hold of your book will review it online. It's dismal, isn't it? It just makes you want to vomit. And if you do a free promotion and you get 10,000 people to download it, well, now you may be talking about getting a significant number of reviews back. And that can be a super good reason to promote a book free. Pay to promote the book free. I am paying to get to your giant list of 2 million subscribers in the hopes that that'll yield 100 reviews for me. And that those people, some portion of them, might be eagerly awaiting my next book, which I'm not going to give away free. And in your mind, you're thinking, but Sandra Brown charges $13.99 for her ebook, and Lee Child charges $9.99 for his ebook. Why can't I? Because you're not Heinz, you're not Hunt, right? And nobody's going to pay that for somebody that they don't know, except those closest in, and they're not your repeat readers. So what is the recommended price range for an indie, for an ebook? For nonfiction, $4.99 to $7.99. Nonfiction is a lot less price sensitive, but start on the low end. Start on the low end of that when you're indie. 10 minutes? Okay. For fiction, it's $2.99 to $4.99. I think even when I was here 5 years ago, I still was pricing most of my stuff at $2.99. I was occasionally doing, last bullet down here, pricing funnels, where I would do 99 cents, $2.99, $3.99, and try to, by discounting one, get them to read through up a funnel of books, like using one to entice them and do promotions with. But I was really having some success with that. And when I would raise the price, I'd make less money, which was a really good indicator that that was not yet time for me to do that. Now all of them are priced at a minimum of $4.99 and some at $5.99, but it took 11 years to get there, and I finally made more money doing that than the other. You will know by what results you yield, but be careful not to mess with prices too often. If you do it any more than about every 6 months, you can't really get enough data to tell whether or not your strategy has worked. If you are exclusive to KDP Select and are in Kindle Unlimited, where it's like the Netflix of books, where people can download your book and read it as part of their subscription, so to them it's free, then you don't control what you're paid for the book. It's based upon the number of pages that Kindle says it has. So, that doesn't apply there. But with any of these ebooks, there's a myriad of different services where if you discount it or make it free, you can be eligible for promotions, and that can be super. For more pricing advice, Smashwords.com puts out an annual update on indie book pricing, and that will help you stay current on that. So this is a business, get in it. Or I don't know when I first said that and the person looked at me like, you are so mean. This is a business, get over it or get out of it. It is. If you want it to be art, then just write your book and hold on to it really tight, right? And hug it. And put it under your pillow. And that will keep it as pure art. But as soon as you start asking for money for it, you're stepping that foot into the business world. All right, so pricing right leads to the 5 R's. Readers are more likely to take a chance on a non-brand name author at a lower price or free. And promoters and advertisers who can reach so many readers or potential readers for us, promoters most of the time won't touch it unless it's free or discount. And usually that's 99 cents as the discount. We're talking just ebooks here, okay? And they do sometimes offer like new release promotion where you can set whatever price you want, but that's just like throwing money into the wind. It never works. Test me if you think I'm wrong and want to throw your money into the wind, but it never works. And advertising, which I spend probably $300 or $400 a day on advertising, period, to make a lot more than that, because you can't, visibility doesn't come free, right? And I used to spend like $5 a day, and then 10, and then 15, and then 20, and as it worked, you ramp it up because you want the income to be more. If I could spend $1,000 a day on promotion and it worked and it would yield a return, you can bet your patootie I would, right? Because that means I'd make more money. But I cannot advertise most of my books at full price. Even most of the advertising, the way in which people are enticed to try something new from an ad is because there's some incentive, right? There's some reason. And if it's not Lee Child's new book, but instead it's Eric Hutchins' new book, that would be something. Then there better be some other, incentive for them to take a chance. Reviews and ratings are required to even achieve being picked for some of these promotions. There's a promoter called BookBub. They are the kingmaker. You get one of these, you're going to move a ton of books. You're going to make thousands of dollars in a short period of time. You're also going to spend $1,000 or $2,000, on the promotion, but you're going to make a lot of money. And you'll get reviews and ratings. But you have to have them in the first place to get there, okay? So volume, like I discount my book to 99 cents and then I sell 5,000, that's still probably more money than I made selling 3 books a week, right? You're going to make more in a week, but you have to have the 5 R's to get there. So the better you do with the 5 R's, the higher you can raise your price. And that gets back to that it took Pamela 11 years, but she finally now prices it at the same as the Amazon published authors. I used to do the first one here, 3,527 reviews on that book. If you'd have asked me 12 years ago whether I'd ever had 5 reviews, I would have laughed. 3,527. I ran it as perma-free for a year and a half. And then I promoted it every single week at free to try to get people to buy these books. Okay, I had other books in the series, and to get them to leave reviews. And that's why, it has 3,527. Yes?
What is perma?
Perma-free means that I say it's free, and I'm not going to raise the price on it. I'm not doing it for a 5-day period. I'm going to leave it free for however long strikes me. Maybe forever, maybe for a year and a half. But if you find a way to do it free, to get people to leave the reviews. It was scary. It worked. All right, so step 5 is pay it forward, must move fast. You want that moment at Barnes & Noble, the big grins on your face, the happy, people are buying my books. It doesn't come without people helping you. And in fact, in that particular case where was I? Orange County,
Yeah,
Orange County,
that's
California.
right.
I had gone and spoken to a women's group beforehand, did a free speech for them, and they followed me there. So I did a free speech, and I got a big group of people to come make me look like a rock star. You have to build support by giving it first. In fact, I found that the more I do for other people, the more other people do for me, and that's a cool thing. So be the promoter, critiquer, encourager, mentor, event attender for your writer buddies, meet their readers, speak publicly. If you write nonfiction, that's a mandatory. You must speak in order to sell nonfiction books. And if you write children's books, you got to do readings. Okay, you got to get into schools and do readings, or you're not going to move any books, because you want whole classes to adopt you. You need to be giving value in exchange for what you want. So whether it's content, or whether it's subscribers who get that short story like Cassandra got, and then build a group of people that are your tight followers that you really reward well, that will do what you want when you need it. If I get a troll review, troll meaning like somebody leaves a 1-star and says, I didn't read this book, but I hate Amazon, then I'll contact my street team and they'll all go out and click helpful on every other good review to bury the troll review on Amazon. And reciprocate when people do things for you. Here are some examples. We used to, in Houston, have a group of women called Women of Mystery. We named ourselves that. That was not a name given to us. And we would hold group events so that we could get each other's readers in and get a little bit more attention. I have another author that we'll occasionally do advertising together and split the costs, try to get them to follow both books. Another one here where 2 authors were linking to each other's books in the back of their books. So remember, learning is what is occurring when you meet that point of resistance. So as we think over everything we just quickly talked about, and by the way, there's your bonus step. Be nimble and adaptable, because just when you think it's working, it all quits and you make 0 money. That would be me 3 years ago, and have to reinvent yourself and get there again. But remember that when it comes to these 5 R's, if you felt resistance, think hard on that concept. It may be the one that you were here to learn about today. So, no runny buggy catch up. Get it edited. Make it a cover that works. All those good things that make it as much like the brand names as possible. You focus on the 5 R's, not paid sales in the beginning. You will get there. You'll get to the point where you can be thinking in terms of paid sales, but you need those 5 R's to get them. You write more, so you have complimentary books or series, so that people have something else to buy when they like you, right? So they can move to your next offering. You price it in, and you pay it forward, and you be nimble and adaptable. And that is all. By the way, we call it the bookmobile. We were talking about this at the beginning earlier with some people about book tours. Yeah, we used to do book tours. Never again, I hate them. But we did 2 full summers of them, and I had an RV with book covers all over it. Really obnoxious. Really, really obnoxious. Now, if you want to learn more, you can come to one of my retreats. You can find that information on PamelaFaganHutchins.com. You can pick up the book in the store over there, What Kind of Loser Indie Publishes, and How Can I Be One Too. There are 2 things you can sign up for if you want. The short stories and novellas that you would get. I actually give away like 5 things because I'm super generous that way. If you sign up for my newsletter, or if the Skipjack newsletter from this website, you get the book launch promotion plan. Did everybody sign up on the book that 1 and 2? Did I make it by like 30 seconds?
That's perfect, yeah.
My work here is done. Thank you guys for coming. I really thought there'd be 5 people. Yes.
Are you a traditional publisher or a self-publishing company?
We think of ourselves as doing indie, doing separate together, or doing indie but doing it together. And it's for mystery, thriller, suspense. We take very few because we don't have time between the 2 of us to do many. But it's like a co-op. People pay their own way, but we do for each other. So we help each other with promotion, advertising, and things that it takes a village to do. And we give everybody the value of our name, which is, for them, it's turned out to be a good deal because I've sold a lot more books than they have. They're all at the back of my book. All these authors that we have.
And a lot of times, to be able to enter a contest,
You have to be
it
published
legitimizes you
by a publisher.
being published by a publishing company. So
Yeah,
we're
it helps
like,
it helps our authors enter contests and be eligible for awards, and we cross-promote each other. And like all of their books are in the back of my book. It says other books from Skipjack Publishing, and it links to all their books.
Great job.
Thank you. How can people get a copy of this
I was gonna say,
presentation?
she's gonna supply the PowerPoint, and we're gonna find a way to get it to the members best. It might be we'll
Thank you.
post it on the website, we might send it out in an email. but we'll get it to you.
Okay,
Okay.
so if I
And-
give you my email address, I'll probably get one of these?
Not this presentation, you will get the book launch promotion plan, but from Wyoming Writers, you'll get a copy